everyone, my name is Avila Tamam, and today I am going to teach you all about poetry by using Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson as a reference. But first thing first, we need to hear the poem. Yes, because we can't just learn the poem without hearing it first. So enjoy.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard. Soul must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest lands and the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asks a crumb of me.
After hearing the poem, we move on to the next topic of this video. And at the end of this video, there will be a test to assess your knowledge. If you understand what you've learned today, okay, the first thing first, as a warm-up, we're going to start with figure of speeches. As you heard in the poem, you might not understand why is hope in question mark or there's a dash in a certain sentence. So, but first thing first, what is a figure of speech? A figure of speech is a word or a phrase that is used in a non-literal way to create an effect. So door doesn't mean door, the bird doesn't mean bird, it could mean anything else. This effect may be rhetorical, as in the deliberate agreement of words to achieve something poetic. It doesn't sound literal, it sounds poetic. Or imagery, as in the use of language to suggest a visual picture or make an idea more vivid. So overall, these figure of speeches function as literary devices because of the expressive use of language. They don't rely on the book for their language. They can use anything, really. The words are used in other ways than their literal meanings or typical manner of application. So there are several that are used in this poem. So the first one is alliteration. So basically this refers to repetition of the same consonant sounds occurring close together in a row to create a musical effect such as an H sound. As an example, we've heard it in the chillest land. So this sounds like it has created a musical quality in the line. So the H we have heard in the chillest lands. Second one is consonants. So it's basically a repetition of consonant sound, such as the sound of in the tune without the word. The th it sounds a bit loud, so you can, and the sound of t in that could have bat the little bird. The t is more pronounced in here. Okay, the next one is assonance. It is the repetition of the vowel sounds in the same line as the sound I, which has it in I've heard it in the chillest line. So the I is repeated in this line. So the next one is metaphor. There is one extended metaphor Metaphor is when you compare a thing with another, such as in this poem. They compared hope with the word feathers or bird, which shows how it sings and gives courage to the spirit of a person. So they basically compare as hope if as if hope is the bird. It can sing, it can fly, do something like that. Okay, the next one is personification. It is when an inanimate object is given human characteristics or qualities. We can, as an example, like a rock can speak, a rock can sing. But in this one, in the first stanza of this poem, the preacher never stops. So that's an inanimate object given life. So being a preacher that keeps on preaching and never stops. It sings in silent song in the hearts of men to fill them with spirit power. So basically, it has personified hope in this poem. Hope is given the characteristic of a human. It can sing, it can, so it's basically like a metaphor, like an extended form to give life. And there's also imagery. It is used to make the readers perceive things through five senses. A word that can be seen, a word that can be heard, a word that can be taste, smell. So it helps a person to create a mental picture of it. Like the object in this poem, which is used the sense of sight. Bird, feathers, storm, land, and sea. You can see them. You can see a bird. You can see feather. You can see storm. You can see land, and you can see the sea. The next one is imagery. The next one is symbol. And that's what Zilavka is just symbol. So basically, they use symbol to show the powerful impact in this poem, hope in our lives. Till sea and storm, it symbolizes this struggle during the trying times when hope is still there. So there is the symbol as the storm and the chill sea. The poem was believed to have been written around 1861, but it wasn't published until 1891. We don't really know where it was created though, but we can only conclude that this poem was meant to signify hope is the sole abstract entity weathering storms after storms by passing hardships with eventual steadiness. It remains unabashed in the harshness of human conditions and circumstances, enabling a thicker skin. So basically, hope is the thing that stands across storms and the greatest sea. The poem was created by Emily Dickinson. So, some info about the author. As you can see, Emily Dickinson is one of America's greatest and most original poets of all time. She took the definition as her province and challenged the existing definitions of poetry and poets' work, like writers such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Walt Whitman. She experimented with expressions in order to free it from conventional restraints, like writers such as Charlotte Bronte and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She crafted a new type of persona for the person. For the first person, the speakers in Dickinson's poetry, like those in Bronte's and Browning works, are sharp-sighted observers who see the inescapable limitation of their societies as well as their imagined and unimaginable escapes. to make the abstract tangible, to define meaning without confining it, to inhabit a house that never became a prison, Dickinson created in her writing a distinctively elliptical language for expressing what was possible but not yet realized, like the Concord transcendentalist whose work she knew well. She saw poetry as a double-edged sword. While it liberated the individual, it has readily left him ungrounded. The literary marketplace, however, offered new ground for her work in the last decade of the 19th century. When the first volume of her poetry was published in 1890, 4 years after her death, it met with a stunning success, going through 11 editions in less than 2 years. The poems eventually extended far beyond their first household audiences. Dickinson is now known as one of the most important American poets, and her poetry is read among people of all ages and interests. After watching the video, as you can see, there is but one of the ways to read it, because a poem has not one but a lot of ways to read it. So you cannot just have a definitive way to recite a poem. A tone is needed. You can read it in a neutral or sad, happy, and in anger. It could change the meaning in a poem. For example, if you read it in an angry voice, it would sound threatening. Or in a sad tone, it would be saddening. For the aspect of the poem, we will use The More Loving One by W.H. Auden as an example to find what is the physical, what is the lexical, and what is the acoustics, because you don't know. So I'll explain to you by using an example, then we will show it in the target poem. So the first things first, the physical one. What is physical in a poem? It is the length of their lines, their rhythms, their system of rhymes, and repetition. In a sense, it is reserved for the type of poem where these features have been shaped into a pattern, especially a familiar pattern. Like, for example, I'm going to take Love's Philosophy by W.H. Auden for this example. Just the first stanza. What is the stanza, for example? A stanza is a mix of lines in a poem. It consists of from 1 to 8 officially in one stanza. So as you can see, this one has 4 lines in the stanza, so which is called quatrain. How long are they? How many syllables do they have? They alternate between 9 and 8 lines and syllables for lines. So as you can see, the fountains mingle with the river, it's 9, and the river, it's the ocean, it's 8. The winds of heaven mix forever, 9 again, with a sweet in motion, 8. This repeats throughout the poem. This is their length. So the next step is, what is their rhythms? Their rhythms is trochaic tetrameter. So what is the trochaic tetrameter? It is essentially there are stress and unstressed. Usually in acoustics, you can have stressed and unstressed syllables. What do they mean exactly? Stress is when you put more effort in saying the word, your facial expressions. For example, pound. And the pound is stress. The 10 is not stress. It's self-explanatory. So there. Rhythms is trochaic parameter, which is the stress first, then the unstressed. It's repeated throughout the poem except for the first line, which is the, which is kind of weird. It's most usually expressed in the front. Okay, and next up is the rhymes. What is rhymes? The rhyme is usually located in the end of a line. How can you know if it's a rhyme? Usually if they sound the same, it's usually a rhyme. They have no definitive patterns. There are many patterns, but this one uses the AB, CD, and CD. So it's basically 1 2 1 2 pattern. You can see fountains mingle with the river. A, so 1, and the river with the ocean. This is the second rhyme. The winds of heaven mix forever. You can see with the river and forever, they both rhyme. So it's 1 and 1. And the second one with a sweet emotion. You can see again, ocean and emotion. That's the second. So it's making it a repeated, full and perfect rhyme. Okay. And usually in a poem there is repetition. What repetition does this poem have? It's with. You can see fountains mingle with the river and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. With is prevalent in this poem. But that's what repetition is. You can see the poem on the screen. So basically, the rhyme of this poem, we take it follows a loose rhyme scheme of ABCB or AB, AB. The ABCB is, as you can see, is in the third stanza. The first and the second stanza has the AB, AB. But it is expected a pattern of a ballad verse. Lines break pattern at the first and second stanza, but the pattern remains intact. So basically, what is the ballad? Usually a ballad verse consists of 8 or 6 syllables alternating. So we can see, and I'm going to read it in syllables. How is the thing with fetters? How is the thing with fetters? How is the thing with fetters? Usually 8. Now on to the second one. That purchase in the soul. That purchase in the soul. So that's 6 syllables. It will alternate between the throughout this poem, except for the last specific last lines, which is yet never an extremity. It has a spondy very poems. They basically stress, no to unstress, and unstressed, stress, and unstressed and stress. I will explain them later, but you get the point. So the rhythm written in the ballad, as I explained to you. So this means the lines alternate between iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. So basically, this means unstressed and stressed syllables combined to, which is repeated in its lines for 4 or 3 times. So you can see, hope is the thing with feathers, has 8 syllables, but 4 stress syllables, so it means 4. And the second line has 3 stress syllables. This iambic trimeter and iambic tetrameter. So tetra is 4 and 3 is 3 trimeter. And iambic is unstressed and stressed. We'll begin with not so much effort, and the next one is effort. Yep, except the first line. Just one. Since hope is a stress syllable. Okay. I'm explaining it further. So the odd number 1, the odd numbered lines contain a total of 8 syllables. So these are divided into sets of 2. First beat of which is unstressed, the second stress, which is iambic. And the even numbered lines are written in iambic trimeter. This means, in regards to metrical foot, that they follow the same pattern of stresses, but contain only 6 syllables. This form also has repetition. What do they repeat in this poem? This is the first example. With is repeated throughout the poem. So what is repeated in this poem? It is that and you can say that perches in the soul and sings the tune and never stops and switches and saw that could that kept. It is repeated in a number of lines. Oh, there's also an N on the stranger's sea. But that's a lot. It uses also metaphor. This is a lexical term. So basically, this is hope symbolized as a bird. And also there's an anaphora, which is the repetition of the same word at the beginning of multiple lines. So which in this case is an, which is repeated for a total of 5 times. Okay, the second one I'm going to explain is the acoustics. What is it? So basically, it refers to all sounds in a poem. Physical is means what you can see, and sounds, sound. Like how similarly they end and they're unstressed and stressed syllables. This is basically a repeat of the physical, but it's more specific. You can see, let's see again, the philosophy. How similarly they end. River, forever, ocean, and emotion. You see, they rhyme. And they're unstressed and stressed syllable. To make it simple to see, I have coded the text with red. So you can see the stress and unstressed. So you can see where it's the trochaic, where pattern 1010, or basically stress and unstressed, except the first line. That's the odd one sound. The next, is the words or the acoustics, the sound of the poem. So the word, there's rhymes also in this. Let's see. Feathers, the words, heard, bird, soul, and all, see, me. If you don't really see well, I'm going to read it again for you, which has to rhyme. Remember, this is a ballad verse. Not all is going to rhyme. So the pattern is mostly A, B, C, D, but A, B, C, A. A, B, C, B. But this poem is not really following that, but still a ballad. So the first and second line is A, B, A, B. And the third line is A, B, C, B. So I'm going to read which one has the same word ending, even if it's stretching. Hope is the thing with feathers first that perches in the soul. This is the second. This is the B. And sings the tune without the words. This is A. This stretches A and A, feathers and words, and never stops at all. This is the B. Soul and all. This kind of stretches, but they sound the same. The ending sounds the same. And sweetest in the gay reserve. This is A again. And soul must be the stone, B, that could abash the little bird. This is A again. So heart and bird. This ending sounds the same. That kept so many warm. So storm and warm, B and B. The ending sounds the same. And the third stanza is A, B, C, B. So they don't really line except the B's. So I've heard it in the chillest land, A. And on the strangest sea is B. Yet never in extremity. This doesn't correlate to A, so this is basically C. It asks a crumb of me. This is a B. So C and me sound the same. The ending sounds the same. And the stress is, as you can see in the poem, I put it in red line, so you can see. Basically, hope and speaks in the gate is heard, and soul must be the soul that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. You can see as you can see, the rhyme, the rhythm is iambic, tetrameter, and trimeter. The red lines, you can see, you can just count the red lines to see how many. So if it's 4, it's tetra, and 3 is 3. Except the first one, and the ninth line. Another time. It's yet never in extremity has a different type of line. So it's a spondy. There is a spondy, a pyrrhic, and 2 iambs. So basically, D meter. It's basically D meter. Okay, and the third one is the lexical. It is basically the meaning behind the poem itself. So while physicals shines on what you can see the writing, the fountains mingle with the river. Lexical shines on what you understand about the poem. So there is no written. You have to understand it. In love's philosophy, you can understand that this is basically an invitation from the poet to the beloved. They usually ask in a seductive way. I can't really show it since this is just an example. You can see the full poem yourself. So the last one is, what does it mean? While exclaiming this, I am going to repeat the line that is meant to be, that we are going to find the meaning. A poem, when finding the meaning to a poem, the best way to do it is usually separating the first stanza. It would make it easier. And if you want to be more specific, you can try per line. But it would take more time. But it's not really an important thing. But you usually need to find the meaning. But unless you try to find it in a whole way, you read the whole poem, then try to find the meaning. That's usually a hard part. So we are going to first explain the first stanza.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
Here's how it sounds if you kind of look at it. So basically, the first word, the first word is given a special emphasis. The two dots, hope, hope, is not prevalent in the other lines. Is given a special emphasis with speed mark, like inverted commas, quotation. As you can see, usually when people speak in stories, there's usually a quotation mark which mark what they speak. So this is put in emphasis. Usually a sarcasm, an emphasis on the word. So basically, it usually means another than what it usually means. As if the poet wants to define that the elusive word hope, and does so with metaphor, which we explain in the physical one. Hope is being metaphor as a bird and has feathers. They perch on the human soul. Feathers is usually soft and gentle to the touch, but they also strong in flight. As you can see, if you pluck the feather from a bird, it's usually soft. But when stuck in a bird, it would give them flight, make them fly. It's strong. Even on tiny birds, like hummingbird, they're small, but they can fly with feathers. Usually, feathers are made up of complex individual fibers. Each feather has a little feather in it. They form a unity. Strength. From this thing, yeah, strength in the poem. See, the imagery here grows stronger as the reader progresses the poem. The reader or the listener, if you spoke the poem, recite the poem in front of friends, not only is hope feathery, it can also sing. The bird, it sits on a perch and sings the whole time. On this gets perched on the soul, hope. But the song is special For there are no words, a wordless song, no diction for anyone to understand rationally. You can't think it with your mind, you can't think it rationally. It's basically an emotion. So basically, it's as hope is a pure song, a pure feeling, a deep-seated longing that can take flight at any time. The song is endless. Note, double dash, emphasis on at all, and never stops at all. It is basically an emphasis on the word at all. And the stanzas break, which brings extra attention to these two words. And then there's the second line.
And sweetest in the gale is heard. Soul must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm.
So this line, the second stanza, So the first line in this stanza is unusual with the use of the double dash. There are two distinct pauses which the reader has to be careful with. And sweetest in the gale, two dashes, is heard. Hope is always singing, as we know from the first stanza, but it sings the sweetest when the going gets rough, when the gale starts to blow. So when life is hard and things are thrown at us, the pressure relentless, there is hope singing through the chaos and mayhem. Note the first mention of bird in line 7. It would take a hellish storm to embarrass or disconcert this bird, so angry or embarrassed, which protects many people from adverse situations. Hope is difficult to disturb, even when life seems hard. So the third one, the third stanza,
I've heard it in the chillest lands and the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asks a crumb of me.
So basically, the personal pronoun I appears for the first time in this poem. I've heard it in the chillest lines, whereas the first stanzas does not have. It uses the third person perspective. Basically, it may be indicating a personal connection to this subject. Since Emily Dickinson wrote this, she maybe thought herself as a little bird. Maybe it is direct. So the poet has heard the bird during the hardest, coldest times when emotions are churning and life's real. But even when things are extreme, hope is still there and never asks for anything. Hope gives us much, but never asks for a crumb in return. It's actually like the violent sacrifice it makes, but never asks us for anything. It is all inspirational, yet highly, or slightly mysterious. Hope wells up in the heart and souls, yet who knows where it came from? There is an abstract nature to hope. Even philosophy, religion, psychology, and metaphor are not sufficient. It can give us strength to carry on in the most adverse conditions. Its voice can be heard despite the noise at the height of the storm. That is all for my some extra notes at the end before we move on to the questions. So as you can see, when you look deeper into the poem, there is more than meets the eye. You wouldn't notice if you were just reciting the poem normally. This is why poetry is beautiful sometimes, because once you explore deeper, you will be fascinated by all the details you miss. Okay, that is all for this lesson. Before we end this video, there will be some questions to analyze your comprehension of this lesson. Don't worry if you don't really know. You just need to test your understanding of it. There will be at least for 30 to 1 minute. This is time for all the questions. There will be 10 questions, and the scoring will be done at the end of this session. The test will consist of filling the blanks and multiple choice. Okay, that is all. See you in the scoring board, and thank you for watching this video. Bye.